I have, and I've talked about this before, but I have battled weight my whole life. My mom and I have both spent our entire lives thinking, I just need to lose 20 pounds. And I learned it from her. She has her whole life been like, I just need to lose 20 pounds. Cindy and I were talking about how I won't ever buy white pants. I think they look great on everybody, but I don't think they look good on me because they make my butt look big. But so as I'm in my 50s now, and a little postmenopausal, it's probably a little too much information for the gentleman in the house, but it affects us women, it affects our bodies, and affects our ability to lose weight. It makes it even harder than it has always been in my whole life. And so I've been not upset, but mad about it. And then I started seeing these on Facebook, the Facebook ads, and it's like, Harvard study shows that cortisol levels can affect weight gain in postmenopausal women. And I'm like, maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's not about my eating, which, let's be real, I'm not perfect, but maybe I have a hormonal imbalance. So I went to the doctor, and I went to my functional medicine, my natural health people, and I said, is that a possibility? And they said, yeah, let's get some blood work. So they did blood work. But there was this long time between when I got the blood work done before I could meet with them because the lady was out of town and whatnot. So of course I get the results in my chart way before I go see the doctor. And so I started looking at the results and trying to Google them because that's what we do. And I had 3 things that were high, that were really high. Not really. 1 was high and 2 were really high. And so 2 of them, I don't even know what that is. So of course I looked them up. And all 3 of them say they are an indication of either an infection in the body that your body's trying to fight, which I don't believe I have an infection, maybe. An impending what are they called? Like lupus, those diseases that fight autoimmune disease, great, that sounds terrible, or impending heart disease. And I'm like, ooh, none of this is good news. And so I had been trying to lose weight by doing a 16-8 fast where I only eat 8 hours a day, and it wasn't really helping me. And so I started, of course, Google searching, how can I get my bad cholesterol down? How can I correct these other 2 things that are high? And the answer was, stop eating processed foods, which I don't eat a ton of processed foods. Cut weight, stop eating sugar, which I do kind of eat some sugary things. Exercise, check. Lose weight, been trying that my whole life. And then increase the soluble fiber in your diet. Well, my mom had high bad cholesterol, and she managed to bring it down. They wanted to put her on statins, and she's like, no, statins are stupid. And so she just really started beefing up the soluble fiber in her diet. So I started beefing up the soluble fiber in my diet. And I also saw this thing where you can do this. It's called the 50 Plant Challenge, where over the course of a week, you try to get 50 different plants in your diet. And that includes spices, includes coffee, dark chocolate. I was like, I can get behind this. So the first week I did it, I got 40 plants, 35 or 40 plants the first week I did it. The next week I got up to 45 plants, I think. My breakfast alone has 20 because I have this awesome bread and I use different spices and stuff. So I feel better about that. And I do feel like I've lost, my pants are smidgen looser, but it's also summer and I've been entertaining people. So we'll see what it's like when I get back from my travels. But anyways, that blood work for me was a wake-up call because I don't want to die of heart disease. My grandmother had heart disease. She was morbidly obese. My grandma on my dad's side, both those grandparents were morbidly obese. They both had type 2 diabetes. They both were in and out of the hospital. My grandmother died of a heart attack, and she was miserable, absolutely miserable because she was so heavy. She had trouble breathing. Now, it didn't help that she smoked non-filter cigarettes for a long time, but I was like, I don't want to end up like that. I saw how miserable she was towards the end. The month or 2 before she died, she's like, I'm done. I don't want to live this life anymore. I'm so tired of being miserable all the time. She died at 69. And I'm like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to feel that sick. I don't want to feel that miserable. And these blood work for me was my sort of a wake up call. I've got to do something different. I've got to make a change. And I think a lot of us have something in our lives. That's just the way it is. My whole life I've been heavy. My whole life I have battled weight. My whole life my family has battled weight. Like, it's just the way it is in our family. And you get to a point when there's something that's not serving us in our lives. Whether it's weight, whether it's anxiety, whether it's being a workaholic, whatever it is, whether it's bad relationships, we get to a point where like, that's just the way it is. And we think that's just the way it's going to be. Until something happens and we're like, that's it. Enough is enough. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to become free of this whatever. I want to become free. I want to be free of like fighting my weight all the time. Maybe you want to be free of the anxiety. Maybe you want to be free of the depression. Maybe you want to be free of the constantly being angry. Maybe you want to be free of a bad relationship. Maybe you want to be free of a job that's just terrible. At some point, we reach that breaking point. We need to reach that breaking point to make the turnaround. To finally stand up for ourselves and be like, that's it. I'm not taking this anymore. And this month we're talking about, this next 2 months, we're talking about the founding fathers of this country. America turned 250 years old, turns 250 years old in July. And we have this group of men and women who stood up and said, enough is enough. And one, like for me, I thought George Washington, and I watched a thing on him. I was like, I could do this whole series on him. And then I thought, all right, just for fun, I'll watch this video on this Sam Adams guy. I thought Sam Adams was just a beer. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I kind of knew he was like a historical person, but really, when you say Sam Adams, I think of the logger. So I started watching some videos about this guy and reading about him. Like, this guy was legit. Like, Sam Adams did a lot, and he was very instrumental in this country. And one of the biggest things he did, he helped other people, the regular average Joe, get to the point of saying enough is enough. Because the colonists, whether you know about history or not, I'll tell you a little bit, the colonists were basically being slaves to Europe, to the crown. They were like serfs, almost. They were working hard and being taxed heavily, and the king was like, you don't matter enough. You're second-class citizens. You're not allowed to come and have someone sit in parliament and have a voice in government. Just give me your money. Work yourself to death and just give me your money. I really just need you to work really hard for me so that I can have what I want, so that I can pay off my debts. And for the longest time, that's just the way it was. Almost, most of the colonists, a lot of the colonists came from the general Europe area, and that's just the way it was. We just work and work and work, and you just take it. That's just the way it is. And you don't cry about it. You want to cry? I'll give you something to cry about, as my dad used to say. And so there's a group of men, and I just think it marvels me to this day, this group of men from different parts of the country, different cities, before Facebook, before email, who managed to come together and each use their specific skills. And Sam Adams' skill was getting people riled up. He was one of the instrumental guys in leading the Boston Tea Party to getting people riled up. He used to write for there's a Boston paper, he would write for that, and he would write not only under his own name, but under a couple pseudonyms, so it sounded multiple people agree this is a problem. So he would and then he even put out his own paper and sent it out of Boston to get other people riled up. He was a brilliant person, to get people to arrive at this emotional place. He would have been a great salesman. He was really good at being we're not gonna take this. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. That's what he did. He got the people to that place. He did all kinds of things. He's on Continental Congress. He signed the Declaration. He was second cousin to John Adams, who became a president. They were all buddies. But the thing that made him awesome was he helped rile people up. Because sometimes we need to get riled up before we're willing to make a change. My test result riled me up. We need to get to that place where we're like, I'm done. Enough is enough. I'm not putting up with this anymore. He would say things like, here's one of his quotes. He's like, power always thinks it has this great soul and that it's doing God's service when actually it's violating its laws. He's like, the crown is acting like they're helping you out. Oh, I'm helping these poor, stupid people get by. I'm protecting them. I'm doing all this good stuff, and you should just take my mistreatment. But actually, no. You're violating the law of human decency. He also said on the day of, he wrote this not on the Declaration, but on the day that they signed it, he's like, we have on this day, 4th of July, restored the sovereign to whom all men ought to be obedient. For he reigns in heaven, and from the rising and the setting of the sun, let his kingdom come. And this quote reminds me of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. May your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Adam saw that God's will for his people was not being done on earth as it is in heaven. Adam was a faithful man. He was a Christian. He believed in God, and he believed that it was not God's design for the colonists to be treated this way. He believed it was not the colonists' design to live as slaves in their own land. And he's like, this is not God's will for us, and so we need to stand up and say no more. We need to stand up and say enough is enough. And I can't help but think that Adams was thinking about some of the founding fathers of the Christian faith. If you go back to the Hebrew Bible, also known as the Old Testament, I feel like Adams was a lot like Moses. You know, if you know anything about the history, so God came to Abraham, we talked about him last week, said, you're going to be my family, you're going to be my people, go that way, I'm going to make you awesome. And they did, and then a famine hit, and they had to go to Egypt so they wouldn't starve to death. And Pharaoh was the leader of Egypt, and one of God's kids came and basically saved Pharaoh and all this stuff. So Pharaoh's like, come live on my land, it's cool. And so they did. And for about 500 years, started off great. But God kept his promise. And he multiplied them. And he blessed them. And he took good care of them. And they multiplied like rabbits. And then the new Pharaoh, 500 years later, was like, my gosh, look at these people. They are thriving. They are multiplying like crazy. They are doing awesome. I'm afraid if this keeps going, they're going to overthrow me. And so he's like, how do I keep them from overthrowing me? I know. I'll turn them into slaves and work them to death. I will put them in their place so they don't ever think, so that they get to that place where they're like, this is just the way it is. We just have to grin and bear it. And that's what he did. He made them slaves. He made them work to the point where they basically all they could think about was survival. But eventually they cried out. Eventually they're like, God, I thought you said that it was going to be great. It's not great. And so God raised up Moses, and that's a whole big long story, how Moses came to be. So basically Pharaoh's like, kill all the babies. Moses lived. Moses was brought into Pharaoh's house and raised in Pharaoh's house. And then Moses tried to stand up for his people, and he killed a guy, and he ran out to the desert for 40 years. Now, God's people cried out, and God sent Moses. Do you guys know Moses was 80 years old when he came back to Pharaoh? For 80 years, God's people, they're probably like, God, are you listening? And he's like, I'm working on it. I'm raising up a guy. Chill. So Moses goes out in the desert, he gets married, he's got a family. He's like, oh, I guess I'm just a farmer. I'm just like a shepherd now. It's fine. This is just the way it is. I thought maybe God made me for something important. You know, I'm a Hebrew. I got raised in Pharaoh's house, but I guess I'm just a shepherd. And that's the way it is. Until one day, God said, enough is enough. So Moses goes by, he sees this bush on fire, but it's not like burning the bush up. That's weird. And God says, hey, Moses. First he's like, take your shoes off. You're standing on holy ground. And so Moses does. He's like, look, I have seen the misery of my people. I've heard them crying out because of their slave drivers. I am concerned about their suffering. And so I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of the land into a good, spacious land. a land flowing with milk and honey. It is currently the home of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and now the cry of the Israelites has reached me. And I have seen the way that the Egyptians are oppressing them, so now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, to the Israelites, out of Egypt. He says to Moses, I need you to go. I need you to whip them up into a frenzy. I need you to go to Pharaoh and say, let my people go. God saw that his beloved people were suffering, and he didn't like it. And he's like, all right, I'm going to free you. It's going to be work. If you've read the story that happens before they head out to the wilderness, it's a lot. There's like plagues. It's a mess. Sometimes the process is messy. It's hard, and it doesn't make sense, and it's scary. But at some point, you have to say enough is enough. And God said, enough is enough. I'm going to lead you out. I'm with you. It's going to be scary. Pharaoh eventually decides to let them go, and then later he's like, oh man, I kind of need them back. And so he chases them, and they all think they're going to die, and then God does this miracle and used Moses to free his people. Just like I think that God used Washington and Sam Adams and others that we're going to talk about to free the American people from the oppression of the crown. And now, 250 years later, we still get to vote. We have voice in our leadership. We get jury, like of our peers. I get jury duty next month, yay. But part of that is because of guys like Sam Adams who are like, we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to let the crown keep us down. And the Israelites are like, we don't want to take this anymore. God's like, I'm not going to let Pharaoh do this to my people anymore. I'm going to lead you out to a land of milk and honey. And that's what God did here in America. I believe he led his people to freedom in the land of milk and honey. And it was a fight. If you know anything about history, it was a fight. It was a David and Goliath kind of fight. And we wouldn't have won that battle if it hadn't been for people like Sam Adams whipping people up into a frenzy to say enough is enough. George Washington wouldn't have had enough people to fight the war if there weren't people like Sam Adams inspiring people to sign up and enlist. Congress wouldn't have spent the money to send to Washington if it hadn't been for Adams saying enough is enough. Are we going to put up with this anymore? We need people, we need situations in our life that lead us to that place. That lead us to the place where like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Whatever our situation is, we got to get to that place where we're like, I'm so done living this way, Lord. Help me. Help me, Lord. And God did. He sent Moses. He's like, go to the Israelites and say to them, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, he has appeared to me and said, I have watched over you. God is watching over us. He's seen what is being done to us. He sees the harm that is coming to us. He saw the harm that was coming to the colonists. He saw the harm that was coming to his people. And he's like, and I promise to bring you up out of your misery into the land where all those guys live, the land of milk and honey. And that is the future that God has for us. To free us from the oppression of whatever it is that's driving you down. We each have it. For me, it's the oppression of being frustrated over my weight. It's also the oppression of overfilling my calendar. I still struggle with that one. I get to a point where I'm like, that's it, God, enough is enough. I'm like crying. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. And he's like, I know, because I told you to stop worrying about it. And give it to me. Let me take care of it. Because there are situations in our life that we can't control on our own. That we can't fight the battle on our own. And we need people to have our back. Sam Adams had the other guys, George Washington's back. Moses had his people's back. God has your back. But you have to be strong enough to say, enough is enough. I don't want to live this way anymore, Lord. So what is your enough is enough? What is your enough is enough? What is it in your life that's not serving you, that's causing you harm, that is oppressing you, that is bringing you down? I want you this week to identify one area of your life where you've just accepted something unhealthy and harmful and just like, oh, this is the way it is. What is it? And then write down one concrete action that you can take this week to break free from that. For me, I changed my diet. I switched from the 16-8 fast to the plant diet. And I'm praying into that and asking God to show me areas where I'm not doing it right, where I'm eating for the wrong reasons or eating at the wrong times or whatever. I'm intentionally praying into that weight situation. Ask God, what have I accepted that you want me to be free from? You could read the Exodus story and notice Moses gives a lot of excuses and God gives promises. Moses is like, oh, I can't do it, God. I don't speak eloquent. They're not going to listen to me. I can't do it on my own. And God's like, but I've got your back. I promise. I've got your back. And to engage, share your struggle with someone else. Let them pray for you. Let them be the one who's going to God for you. Like Sam Adams went to everybody else to rile them up to Washington's cause and to the cause of independence. Ask your friends to pray for you so that they can rile God and the whole Jesus and the Holy Spirit up to your cause and fight for you. Because we have a God who wants us living in the land of milk and honey, not in the land of oppressive slavery. And while we are not physical slaves to somebody, we are still slaves. We each have something we are slave to. What is it that God wants to break you free from this week? And all of God's children said,